Now we're going to explore an American school in Queretaro, the John F. Kennedy School, a project that Annabelle Membrillo, with us today, has been working on for almost 15 years. You've been
18
working
years. No, 15 years.
15 years you've been working with this group during many cycles. So this is very exciting. So tell us a little bit about the school. It's kindergarten through 12.
It's K-12. It has around 1,500 students, and next year they're gonna be having their 55th anniversary.
55th anniversary.
55th anniversary, and I mean this school has, and you need to know the context to understand what happened next. But the school doesn't have an owner, so they have a board of directors, a parent council, an assembly that has parents and all former parents that want to be involved in the process, and also it has the faculty. And also, what happens with this specific school, because it's an American school, it has a lot of the parents has a lot of power, economical and political power. So kids lives in a specific type of reality. So that's important for the process that the school started to do in 2004. That it was about changing the whole culture inside the school in service of the kids and how the kids were like developing themselves.
Right, so this is not a school that's part of the Mexican public school system, so it's not part of the Secretaría de Educación Pública. No. But they have, any school in Mexico has to abide by the rules of the Secretariat. Yeah. But it's a private school, but it doesn't have an owner, so it's not a privately owned, but it is a private institution that's owned by or run by the families and the faculty in these. And by being an American school means that it's, even though, so it also has to meet the Secretary of Public Education system requirements, but it gives the child an American-based education that's recognized within the United States as an American-based education, and the education is given in English. They also have...
most of the education is given in English. But yeah, and also they have like 3 different systems they have like to take into account. That is the Secretaría de Educación Pública in Mexico, the IB, that is International Bachelor,
and the National Baccalaureate Program.
Yeah. That one. And also the SACS, that is one specific group that gives certifications for schools in different parts of the world around academic standards.
Excellent. And so you started working with this school in 2004. It's in Querétaro, which is in north of Mexico City, a couple of hours, 2 hours to 5 hours, depending on traffic. And what have you done with them? So over that time period, what were sort of the processes that you've done with them?
Well, at the very beginning in 2004, they were calling us because they were just beginning the process of the certification with SACS. And part of the requirements were that they could have like a very strong strategic planning process and everything in place with the institutionalization of the school, with the internal processes and everything. So they call us to build up the strategic process, but also during the conversations, we started to realize that they also wanted to go through what we call it now with economics, a very participative process for the deep share purpose. So we did the whole strategic planning process, the mapping and the analysis. And at the same time, we went through a kind of community building process with the different groups. And we held like different dialogue sessions, but with all the perspectives together. And that was very interesting. We even had students, families, staff, teachers, board, everyone together. And we did around 5 big work cafes, each one with 100 people, more or less. to define what was like this deep share purpose or the global goal in the case of that.
This was back in 2004 when you started.
Yeah, that was in 2004. And after that, one piece that they wanted to learn was about how to facilitate these kind of dialogues with community. And that's very easy to learn, so they learn how to do that. And we almost didn't have any contact with them like for 10 years.
With the school.
With the school. In 2004, I mean, it was like the whole process of working with them. So the whole strategy was clear for everybody, and everybody knew what they needed to do in order to get to that specific strategy. And 10 years later, they called us again.
2014.
And they asked again for helping us with the strategy, because they were like, that is not, I mean, the ones that we have, that doesn't seem to be like current now, so we need to renew that. So we were, okay, so let us go and talk with you and see the school and talk with some people. And we asked for that because we didn't know if the map was something new, or we only needed like to include one more loop or something like
in
that.
In the strategic
system map.
Yeah.
And when we were there and talking with people, we realized that it was a completely new system. They were able to completely transform the whole school in 10 years. So the map was not useful for defining the next step in the strategy for the school. So we did again, but in that case, because we already have this, the economics piece, so we did like both processes at the same time. We did again the system mapping and the whole analysis. We have also this participatory process with the community, because they don't have an owner, so they always try to do that in the whole community. And we have this process of the complete agreement assessment with them. The whole school, except parents and students, answered the survey. It was around 150 people, with interviews, observation of meetings, and reviewing the whole manuals of processes and everything. So it was. So
like you did the agreements health check survey and the agreements evidence mapping as well, as the whole strategic clarity and analysis. Yeah.
But it was this agreement assessment. I mean, the full agreement assessment. It was not just the tools. It was like the full thing going on. And and one very interesting thing that happened there is that in 2004, they were talking about that the deep share purpose was about to holding or creating the conditions so the individual can be educated in an integrative way. And they were talking that we want the students to be developed physically, mentally, emotional, and spiritually. And in that moment, in 2004, we were like...
2004 or 14?
2004.
Yeah.
I'm going back. Because we told them, we asked them, do you really want to do this? Because you already have, they were very good at the academic level. And you have some physical development very well done. But you don't have anything at all around the physical and emotional. So if you really want to do this, most likely the school needs to completely transform their structure to develop new capacities that you don't have now, and change everything inside school. So they were like, yes, we want to commit to that. And we were like, okay. And that's why we were asking 10 years later, about talking with them about that. And that's the way we realized that they already had a lot of different things inside the school to support the emotional development of the kid, They introduce a lot of different art, like art classes, but it's not just classes, the art approach. And I mean, so they include a lot of different things inside. And they also had some special groups, like teachers supporting teachers for the ones that needed something to approach a group or a kid. They also have school within a school. That because they are very, that's also very important, they are multicultural. At the beginning, they were more like bicultural, like more American Mexican, but now they have like 14, 15 different cultures inside the school. So this multiculturality, they ask for them to be aware that if they receive a student for Korea, then they have a process, and that's the name of that process is a school within a school, to support the kid in the process of like being adapted to the Mexican culture and the new language and everything, and the school. So they have a lot of different groups and support like that for the students. And so in 2014, that's again what we did. And this year, they are asking us to make like a renewal of the deep shared purpose again.
In 2018.
In 2018. And they are calling that the mission and vision because they need again to send that to the IB and to the SACs and everything. And that's the way these institutions are calling these kind of processes. But this is actually our deep shared purpose in when we are talking from the economics framework. So we are just going through a very small process with them, talking with different perspectives about what is the deep shared purpose for the school and the values and things like that. But we are just like in the middle of that small process with them now.
Excellent. So what have been some of the insights that you've seen for yourselves or for the community in going through this whole process? Because one was they had to do it for the International Baccalaureate program and the certification process. What insights did you get or did they get from going through the process?
That in this case, it was also this realization that they were working in 3 different lines. And the last one is because they are on the school, but they were working a lot in the structural part of the school. For example, one of the main pathways in 2004 was like to create some basic structure to support the whole process of the school.
So this was a strategic pathway that came out of the analysis.
That came out of the analysis, and that was 2004, and around 2007 or something, for the first time in the whole history of the school, they hire a communication director, for example. And 2 years later, they hire an operational staff director. So they start to build up that basic infrastructure to be able to support the whole evolution of the school. So that actually we have like timelines and the different kinds of things they were doing during those 10 years. And at the same time, they were working a lot around the culture of the school. And they start from the inside, I mean, with the teachers, directors, and the boards. And the reason I'm saying that is because in 2014, one of the main things was to expand that culture outside of the walls of the school. Because again, the families usually have like a lot of power and a lot of economical resources. Then sometimes it's difficult to really approach the parents and to include them in the culture they want to build. So the kids usually have these different behavior inside or outside the school, but now they are working with the parents to be able like to to have the same culture in the whole range of contact with the kid. But that is that, and at the same time they were working a lot in the academic. So they are one of the most innovative schools in not just in Querétaro but in Mexico. They are an example of what is possible to do even for the IB. And so, but they were working in the tree at the same time, and it requires a lot of energy and time and investment from them. But one thing that I was impressed in some way, but it was a big learning for me, is that because they were ready to take their own developing in their hands, so they didn't need like a lot of time from our side. It was just to have clarity of the pathways they needed to be aware of, and that was a big learning. I mean, to find out and to identify how to have these. What are the key factors that we need to consider in order to be able to say that that group is able to do that process and that evolution by themselves? So that they have been like informing me in looking at that in different groups.
Did you see any shifts in them in taking on this work because of the participation in these processes of both the agreements work and the systems work?
In them as a
individuals person? Or in the school, that something shifted because of the experience with you?
I don't know if it's only about the experience that they have had with us, but yes, they have changed and they are more aware. For example, in the last conversations with the board, talking about this deep shared purpose and the renewal of that vision, we start the exploration of what is collaboration for the school and what is the definition of leadership, because they talk a lot about that they want to help develop the next leaders, but the next leaders is a big word, so we have been like exploring that with them. And one of the things that has happened so far is that they are getting clearer and clearer about what is that they are calling leaders, and most likely they are going to be calling that name in a different way, because leaders doesn't resonate with what they really want to go with the kids.
Excellent. What are you seeing as some of the impacts? One is their ability to have the program and to continue to grow. Are there other impacts because of this work that you see? Or
one of the big things that are happening, and it is not yet out there in Querétaro, I mean in the people in Querétaro, is that the kids are getting in a different way out of the school. I mean, 15 years ago, kids were like very well academically, but usually everybody will say that those kids were not able to make any connection. They were like just thinking about themselves and things like that. But they were very, very efficient and very well trained in getting into the academic stuff. And now that is changing. And there are some schools that are even saying to the different directors, because they are very related with the different universities in Querétaro, just to see how to get the best kids in the best schools. And those people in the universities are already saying that the kids that get out of the JFK are able to work in different ways, are very innovative, they can think by themselves. And so that's changing. And also they have new programs that are helping, and again, that's because that's an American school with a very specific elite condition, but that is helping a lot, not just to the kids, but for the families, to be aware that there are other social realities. And that because most likely these kids are going to be the next leaders in government and companies and everything, they need to be aware of that. And they need to have a sensibility about that in the future. I mean, and they have indicators and everything, and those has been also improving through time. But I think that those could be like the best impact so far.
That's great. Thank you. Anything else you want to share about this project?
No.
Great. So, John F. Kennedy School in Queretaro, Mexico, K through 12 education, using the agreements framing, the strategic systems framing, collaborative process framing over a 14 to 15 year process with Annabelle Membrillo. Thank you.